Google has built a new quantum computer called Willow, which can perform a special type of calculation in just 5 minutes. A calculation that would take even the world's fastest supercomputers over 700 trillion times the age of the universe to complete. But how is this even possible? In the previous episode of the series, we saw how computers evolved from a 2,000-year-old mechanical device all the way to microprocessors with billions of transistors. We explored how technology kept advancing, which scientific laws we exploited, and how this journey has now brought us to the dawn of a new era, the quantum age. In 1981, at a Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a lecture on simulating physics with computers, a very brilliant scientist, Richard Feynman, presented this observation. Quantum systems like atoms, molecules, and particles work according to the principles of quantum mechanics. And these quantum behaviors are so complicated that they cannot be understood with the straightforward ones and zeros binary logic of classical computers. To understand them, we will need a computer that itself works on the laws of quantum mechanics. His statement also became very famous. Nature is not classical, damn it. If you want to make a simulation of nature, you'd better make it quantum mechanical. Feynman also gave some very beautiful ideas, which would later become the backbone of quantum computers. Like he suggested, today we use transistors like on-off switches. In binary language, on means 1, off means 0. And with these combinations, logical operations are created. Exactly in the same way, in quantum computers, we can use the spin of electrons. Spin up means 1 and spin down means 0. But just by assigning electrons up and down spins as 1 and zeros, what will really happen? That alone won't make computer powerful, right? So where does that unimaginable power of quantum computers actually come from? The answer lies in two fundamental principles of quantum mechanics. The science that governs the world of subatomic particles. Number 1, quantum superposition, and number 2, quantum entanglement. To understand how these powerful principles are used in quantum computers today, we take the help of a very important experiment in quantum mechanics, the double slit experiment. Now pay attention, because many people think they have understood this experiment, but often they are wrong. And without understanding this experiment to the core, you cannot properly understand quantum computers. So imagine if on a straight standing plate you make two parallel slits, and from the front of that plate you fire some grains of sand. Then behind that plate, if a screen is placed, what kind of pattern will appear there? Well, two parallel lines, right? That's common sense. But what is not common sense is that now if instead of sand, you fire subatomic particles like electrons or photons, then on the screen, on the other side, this pattern will not appear. Instead, this kind of pattern will appear. Well, this pattern is called an interference pattern, and it is produced by waves, because unlike particles, the behavior of waves is such that they interact with themselves. So are subatomic particles not particles but waves? We were taught they are particles, right? Well, yes, they are particles, but they behave like waves. Their movement in our world is like that of a wave. That's why we say they show wave-particle duality. Now, when they were fired in front of two slits, notice what happened. Like a wave, they passed through both slits at the same time. Meaning, even though only a single particle is present, it could still pass through two slits at the same time. And this property of particles is called superposition. They can exist in two places at the same time. Now, intuitively, it's hard for this to wrap your heads around because it goes against common sense. But stay with me, it'll start to make a little bit of sense. Now imagine if somehow we could use this principle of superposition and make it do multiple combinations of calculations or computing all at the same time. How does that sound? Well, this idea was first conceived by the father of quantum computers, David Deutsch, in 1980s. But for now, let's come back to our experiment. So now tell me, if a wave passes through two slits, what will happen? As soon as the waves pass through the slits, they break down in multiple waves and interact with each other and create interference. Now there are two types of interferences, constructive interference and destructive interference. If in an interference, two waves of the same size and structure combine together, this is called constructive interference. This case, by adding up, the size of that wave will increase. And if, let's say, because of interference, two waves cancel each other out, this is called destructive interference. And in that case, those waves will either become smaller or totally cancel out. Now look carefully at the slide again. Wherever you see bright stripes, all of those are the areas where constructive interference has happened, meaning waves have converged, amplified, and that's why more particles have accumulated there. Now friends, let's pause here for a moment and pay attention. Think carefully and tell me, what did we learn from this? Well, the first thing, you cannot exactly pinpoint where a particle will be found, but you can estimate where the chances of finding it are the highest. Second thing, you can also predict where the chances of not finding that particle are high. This is only because of the wave behavior of those particles. And wave behavior is not deterministic, it is probabilistic. Meaning, you cannot say with 100% certainty where these particles would be found. But by using probability mathematics, you can make the best guess of where those particles are most likely to be found. And all those bright areas you see on the slide are those highly probable areas where any fired particle can be found. As the brightness increases, the probability also becomes higher. Since we learned that the quantum world is not based on fixed outcomes, but on probabilities. From then onwards, this world didn't seem so confusing to us anymore. And we started understanding it, making our own rules. Like in 1926, a German physicist Max Born made his own formula, which could exactly predict the probability of a particle being at a certain place. Meaning, we started making certainty out of uncertainty. And these very observations played the biggest role in making of quantum computers and algorithms. So what did the particle basically show in the double slit experiment? Well, that they can travel multiple paths at the same time and in the end, show where the chances of finding them are the highest. Can the same principle be used inside the computer to solve a problem where there are billions of options but only one or a few correct answers? Like breaking the encryption code of high security data? If you break down this data to build a quantum computer, basically our goal will just be this, that if we can use this probability principle and interference effects of quantum mechanics properly, then during calculations, we can repeatedly combine different kinds of similar waves and their probabilities. And after every round of processing, we can get closer to our answer. Like we saw in double slit experiment, those waves interacted in a very particular kind of way and showed where particles could land. In the same way, in quantum computers, we can make waves interfere, and by suppressing all destructive or average wave patterns, we focus only on the most constructive interference patterns so that the correct answer amplifies and comes out in front of us automatically. So basically, with our quantum processing, we can literally build the correct answer out of interference of billions of waves. For this, we will just need some special algorithms in that computer to mathematically direct this process. And this is the fundamental principle behind quantum computers. By eliminating all destructive interferences, regular waves and noise, we let those waves combine which constructively interfere together. Like in music, where all coherent waves match their rhythm together, the correct answer most certainly will be that one. Now let's understand this principle at work with an example. First with a little bit of common sense and then with correct interpretation of quantum mechanics. In a normal classical computer, for digital information transfer, classical bits are used, which are basically silicon transistors, as we learned in the last video. These transistors, switching on or off, transmits information in the form of 0 or 1. All the programs, words, images, everything you see on a computer screen are codes filled with the 1 and 0 seconds. And the most important thing about these classical bits, at one time, they will denote either 1 or 0. Okay. So now let's talk about quantum computers. Well, in them, for information transfer, very special kind of bits are used called qubits. This qubits will be 1 or 0, depending on the spin of the particle. Up spin means 1 and down spin means 0. Now, the speciality of the qubits is that because of superposition, they can show both states equally at the same time. For example, if you toss a coin, until the coin falls to the ground, the coin won't reveal its state. And mathematically, it's just the average of heads and tails. In the same way, in the case of a qubit 2, until it is measured, it can exist in both states at the same time, representing binary 0 and 1. Now let me show you just the glimpse of the power of one qubit. Imagine there is a complicated problem like a rat maze, in which suppose there are 100 paths to move forward, but only one path leads out of the maze. Now, in a traditional computer, to solve such a problem, the computer would have to go to the end of every path to check which one actually leads out. But in the case of qubits, remember, they can exist in both states, state 1 and 0, at the same time, whereas a classical bit can exist in only one state. That's why one qubit here can walk on two paths simultaneously and at the same time find out where those paths lead. This is called parallelism in the language of quantum computing. But here, the magic is just the beginning. If you increase the number of qubits just a little, its real power starts to become clear. Because the processing power doesn't increase linearly, it increases exponentially. Look at the case of 2 bits. Now they can exist in 2 to the power of 2, meaning 4 states at the same time. State 1, combination 1, 1. State 2, combination 1, 0. State 3, combination 0, 1. And state 4, combination 0, 0. Once again, at the same time, all states can exist, meaning they can travel 4 paths in the maze at the same time. In the case of 3 bits, they can travel 2 to the power of 3, meaning 8 paths travel at the same time. And like this, it keeps on increasing. If a simple quantum processor is made of 100 qubits, do you know how many paths it can process at the same time? Just imagine 2 to the power of 100, that is 1.26 nonillion, meaning 1 followed by 30 digits. In comparison, the observable universe holds fewer atoms than this. And in our maze, there are only 100 possible paths. Even if there were 1 billion paths, this processor would solve it in a snap. That's why Google's new processor can do in just 5 minutes what today's supercomputers would take 10 septillion years to do. But it doesn't stop here. Before I talk about quantum computers and the principle of quantum entanglement, let me make one thing clear. The fun examples we used were a simplified way to understand the idea. In reality, what's actually happening is a bit more complex. Those qubits, together, are literally transmitting billions and trillions of waves in every direction. A quantum computer keeps track of how these waves interfere with each other, and in the end, it filters out the destructive interference and decodes the constructive interference to arrive at the correct answer. In simple terms, the place where most of the waves come together coherently, perfectly in sync, that's where the right answer lies. Because in the world of quantum physics, ultimately, the universe always prefers the shortest path to reach any destination. And that's why, after all the wave interference, most of the waves eventually converge on the right answer. Richard Feynman also noted that from point A to point B there can be billions of possible paths. But a particle has this unique tendency that, probabilistically speaking, it will almost certainly always travel the shortest path. And Feynman mathematically proved this and developed the Feynman's path integral. Now this principle is so fundamental that it is the only principle that governs our entire universe, and so far no theory has been able to contradict it. Not even Einstein's theory of relativity or quantum mechanics. So, friends, where have we reached so far? Well, we've got a basic idea of how quantum computers use superposition for parallel computing. Now let's understand how these computers use another powerful principle, quantum entanglement. Look, in short, quantum entanglement is basically a phenomenon in which 2 or more qubits become linked or entangled with each other, so that they seem to be magically connected and start sharing information with one another, no matter how large the distance between them is. Think of it like this. If one spinning top is rotating from left to right and it gets entangled with another spinning top, then both tops will start rotating in the same left to right manner, as if they've been linked together by some magical thread. Now this happens only with quantum particles. I use this spinning top analogy just as an example. But in the case of quantum particles, it doesn't matter if one particle is on Earth or at the edge of the universe, they remain connected. And the communication between the two is almost instantaneous, which makes it potentially very useful for coordinating between different systems. However, due to the limits of special relativity, no classical information can be transferred using it. So in principle, this means that many qubits can work together at the same time, like a team, allowing calculations to be performed in parallel and at extremely high speed. So now, After understanding the fundamental principles of quantum computers, everything seems to be falling into place, right? We've seen just how powerful these quantum computers potentially could be, the kind of problems they can tackle. So why not just install them in every home? Well, I'd like to bust two very important myths. First of all, as you've seen, quantum computers are designed to solve a very specific kind of problems. They are not made to run Word, Excel, or video games like your PC. They are meant for problems where there are billions of possible solutions, like a lock with billions of keys where we need to find the right key and we need to find it fast. Basically, problems where we have to find interesting patterns hidden inside massive amounts of data. Or cases where we want to simulate quantum worlds, atoms, and molecules so that we can understand their properties better. In short, these are problems that require extreme parallelism, and solutions to these kinds of problems don't occur in the heads of common people like us. So far, quantum algorithms haven't become advanced enough to perform all general activities like an operating system does on a regular computer. Today, a quantum algorithm can easily solve a very specific and limited set of problems, and gradually we are increasing both the number of these algorithms and the machines that can run them. The second point is, quantum computers will only be able to come into homes only when we learn how to carry out quantum processes at room temperature, just like they happen naturally in our environment. It's a fact that even today, we don't fully understand how nature manages at room temperature to take in light and CO2 inside plants and convert them into sugar. Photosynthesis is a quantum phenomenon, and we still don't know exactly how it works at room temperatures, because so far we've only been able to make quantum interactions work at extremely low temperatures close to -273 degrees Celsius. Take a look at this. This is a quantum computer, but in reality, it's less of a computer and more of a refrigerator. It's called inner dilution refrigerator. The actual quantum chip is tiny and sits right at the base of this refrigerator. You can see the thick pipes. Through them, liquid nitrogen and helium are pumped down to the lower stages. Then there are all these curled wires. Signals travel through them via microwaves and are finally relayed to a classical computer. When this computer is switched on, it's placed inside a large cylindrical enclosure called the outer dilution refrigerator, which protects the processor from external heat and electromagnetic radiation. This is crucial because the biggest enemy of quantum processors is quantum decoherence. That is, external interference entering their waves, or even causing their wave nature itself to collapse. But basically, you already know this fact. Quantum particles behave like waves, but the moment they interact with any other particle or energy, their wave function collapses. And out of all the possible waves, they turn into a single definite particle, meaning they lose their basic quantum properties like superposition and quantum entanglement, and then they are no longer of any use to us. The same thing happens in the case of qubits as well. The moment they experience any kind of interaction, they immediately lose their quantum state and they collapse. And this is what we call quantum decoherence. To protect them from this quantum decoherence, quantum processors are kept at temperatures extremely close to absolute zero, which is the lowest temperature ever possible in the universe, because this state is literally the absence of any unnecessary motion or heat. You see these pipes? They all are part of the cooling system that keeps the setup at temperatures close to absolute zero. But even after all this, it's still not foolproof. You might find it hard to believe, but despite everything, qubits remain active for only few microseconds before they quickly decay. The time window during which a qubit remains in superposition or in a coherent state is called coherence time. And this is one of the biggest challenges on the path to making quantum computers. All the major companies are getting stuck at this exact point. And this is precisely where Google's Willow chip has shown a major achievement this time by making a significant leap forward.
Google's Willow chip is touted as not just another technology breakthrough, but an evolution. In under 5 minutes, the chip can solve a problem that would take today's most powerful computers 10 septillion years.
Google's Willow has outperformed all other superconducting quantum competitors by increasing the coherence time 5-fold. And even after that, Willow's coherence time is still only about 100 microseconds or 0.1 milliseconds. A qubit can remain active and perform calculations for only 0.1 milliseconds. So in such a short amount of time, how much computation can it really manage to do? But If you've seen the news headlines, then in those headlines, Google itself claimed that the computer ran calculation for 5 minutes. So if a single qubit collapses in just 100 microseconds, how did those calculations managed to run for 5 entire minutes? Well, with the help of a special technique that is literally the backbone of quantum computing: quantum error correction. Using this technique, quantum computers literally identify and correct errors, that is, decohered qubits one by one, and keep forwarding the processed information forward so that the show can keep going. Think of it basically like a relay race. Each qubit performs a small part of the calculation, then collapses within a fraction of a second and relays its information to another qubit. That next qubit then does the same, and the process continues forward. So if a qubit has a coherence time of 100 microseconds, error correction happened within around 10 microseconds so that the information can keep moving forward without breaking the computation. Now the big question is, how do these error correction happen in real time? That's the million-dollar question, because according to the laws of quantum mechanics themselves, the moment you physically interact with qubits in any way, even touch or measure them, they instantly collapse and lose their quantum state. So how did it become possible for these computers to fix errors without breaking the quantum state? Well, this is actually the very heart of quantum computing. And to understand how this is done, we first need to understand that in quantum computers, there are usually two types of errors. Number one, bit flip error, meaning the information of a bit changes. A 1 becomes 0 or a 0 becomes 1. Second type of error is phase flip error, meaning the relative phase between states in an entangled system changes. For example, a state like 0 plus 1 turns into 0 minus 1. The probabilities of getting 0 or 1 are still 50-50. Now, to understand how this is fixed, you're building a sandcastle. The moment wind or water hits it, it starts falling apart. So you need to protect it from wind and water, right? But how long can you realistically keep doing that? Well, that's exactly the same problem with qubits too. It can't afford to interact with anything at all, not even the slightest interaction with the surrounding. But now imagine this. What if you make 3 identical replicas of your sandcastle? If wind or water damages one of them, you can look at other replicas and use them as a reference to fix the damaged sandcastle. But in quantum error correction, there's a very popular technique called redundancy. In this, just like a single logical qubit that carries the main information is encoded across 3 physical qubits. That means the one logical qubit carrying information is now distributed into 3 physical qubits. So the basic equation becomes like this. Instead of 0 plus 1, we will store this information as 1 logical qubit equals 000 plus 111. Now, if let's say one bit flips from 0 to 1, then the equation becomes logical qubit equals 100 plus 111. Here, to rectify this error, some helper qubits, also called ancillary qubits, are deployed through quantum gates. These helper qubits precisely entangle with the errors. Just like classical logic gates in circuits direct the flow of electrons, quantum logic gates direct the wave of motion of quantum particles logically. Because these extra helper qubits are also quantum, they can easily interact with the error qubit. Then, when we measure these helper qubits, they collapse and reveal the exact type and location of the error. The beauty of this technique is that the entire logical quantum system remains intact, because we never touched it. We just made the helper qubits interact with error qubits and only measured the helper qubits, and once the error is identified, it can be flipped back through logic gates and the calculation continues. This whole process can happen within 10 microseconds. Now, for phase flip errors, we make 3 more copies of these 3 physical qubits, 000 plus 1, 1, 1, which can be encoded as plus plus plus, plus minus minus minus. Here too, helper qubits scan the entire quantum state and check for mismatches. If a mismatch is found, then that mismatch is identified, a syndrome measurement, meaning error measurement code, is taken and quantum logic gates are applied to fix it. One popular algorithm created by Peter Shor, called Shor's code, can protect against both types of errors, bit flip and phase flip, and can use quantum logic gates to carry out complex numerical calculations like factoring very large numbers. So basically, to simplify everything, in quantum computers, qubits are entangled together and many replicas of them are created. Whenever any qubit decoheres, that decohered qubit is reconstructed from the group using special algorithms. And in a way, the qubit is brought back to life. This way, information is not lost. Instead, other entangled qubits extract it and continue the calculations onward like a relay race. And in this very way, Google's Willow has also achieved a breakthrough result in its quantum error correction code, thereby increasing the arrays of qubits along with reducing the number of errors in each of their cycles. But even so, right now, the quantum computers of companies like Google, IBM, Xanadu, Honeywell, etc. are still very far away from being able to solve real-life problems and competitions. These three major problems are: number 1, stability of quantum states; number 2, effective algorithms; and number 3, real-time error corrections. Improving this and scaling them effectively and economically are currently among the biggest challenges. And if we are able to overcome these challenges, our future could completely change. Well, it will open the doors to a new world that today is almost impossible to even imagine. First of all, the pharma and medical industry will be completely revolutionized, because even today, making new medicines is like finding the right key out of millions of keys to fit a lock. We have to understand how drug molecules interact with the body's complex proteins, try billions of possible combinations of molecules, and simulate complex chemical reactions at the atomic level. And all this is done on classical computers by building 3D models. But since nature itself is quantum mechanical and works only through quantum mechanical processes like photosynthesis, if we assign quantum computers to decode the right drug combinations, then unlike today, drug development won't depend on luck, 15-20 years and billions of dollars. It could happen within just a few months. Number 2, epidemics and pandemics, which historically have taken the most lives. We could finally say goodbye to them, because whatever the virus or pathogen, we would be able to study them directly at the molecular level, predict their billions of possible deadly mutations in advance, and stop them before they spread. Which means these viruses would never even reach their tipping point. Even vaccine development, finding the perfect drug or combination to fight them, could be done within weeks. Number 3. Now this development would be insane. Even today, the cause of many diseases is the malfunction of proteins in the bodies, like cancer, which affects protein folding due to mutations, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and for exactly these diseases, we don't have proper solution for this today. The reason is proteins are extremely complicated molecules, and to simulate each of their possible foldings by making 3D models and then observing how new drugs interact with them in a complex ecosystem is extremely complicated and resource-intensive task. Quantum computers could do this work within weeks or months. So many diseases which today we consider incurable, tomorrow we may find cures for them. In fact, human lifespan could also reach 100 to 150 years, because we will be able to understand our own biology at the DNA level and optimize it with anti-aging drugs, supplements, lifestyle, and medical facilities. Just think about it. In ancient times, when science wasn't developed, humans lived for only about 30 to 25 years on average. But today, in developed countries, people live up to 85 years. Stretching this to 100 years, 150 years won't be as difficult as you might think. Number 4. In the space industry, we will see the greatest benefits of quantum computers. The universe itself works on quantum laws, and that's why, by modeling these very laws, we will literally be able to accurately model complicated physical phenomena like black holes and quantum gravity, which today are impossible for us to do. We can even solve the mystery of dark energy and dark matter. Just imagine what secrets of the universe could fall into our hands. We could literally become the kings of our galaxies, because now we would be able to very accurately predict the motions and positions of every single planet, star, asteroid, and moon every second. Today, for even a single trip to Mars, we have to solve millions of variables just to keep the spacecraft's trajectory correct. Quantum computers will perform these calculations in an instant. We will be able to develop new materials, design better spacecraft and rockets, and revolutionize space technology and engineering. And finally, the search for alien life could potentially become much easier. Right now, distractions are stopping us from finding alien life. Millions of techno-signatures, meaning radio frequencies or electromagnetic waves, from which we need to separate which ones could belong to intelligent alien life and which ones are just interference or noise, an extremely complicated task The SETI Breakthrough Listen project has been doing this for 20 years and still no success. But QCs will do this in an instant. Also based on biosignatures and Drake's equation, they could literally help us scan the largest planetary data sets and focus on those sets where alien life may actually exist. Number 5. In the world of physics and mathematics, exponential new discoveries will unfold. Complex math equations and quantum mechanics problems will be solved instantly, leading to new technologies and creating a domino effect of advancement. Number 6. AI. Artificial intelligence and quantum computers are like two long-lost brothers, and they were made to exist together because the exponential speed of quantum computers and the self-learning ability of AI will accelerate human civilization infinitely. And through AI development, new concepts and ideas for improving the hardware and electronics of quantum computers will also speed up. Maybe these two will keep evolving together forever, and it will never ever stop. What do you think? Today, when we talk about Kardashev's Type 2, Type 3 civilizations, they seem impossible to us. But suddenly, after unlocking quantum powers, doesn't it feel like maybe this is possible? But yes, we must remain cautious, because realizing their true powers, some of the most brilliant minds have already warned us that AI and quantum computers must be handled very carefully.
My worst fears are that we cause significant harm to the world. I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
AI is one of the biggest threats.
So quantum computers have endless possibilities. What I've shared are just some of the very basics. We haven't even fully understood their true applications yet. Literally, wherever our imagination can go, the applications of quantum computers could potentially reach that far. All we need is little more creativity and effort. With that said, friends, this short series on the complete evolution of computers comes to an end. If you enjoyed it, learned something new, and feel positive about the future of humanity, then do give us a like and share this video with your friends and families, because together we need to bring that enthusiasm for science all across this world. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. See you again.